Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. It wasn't designed to do this, but that doesn't mean it can't. Written by Writer Unblocked. Standing at his helm, Ryan Donato felt the sense of disappointment creeping into the back of his mind. He knew that he was the captain of a C-class cruiser at the bleeding edge of human space travel technology. He knew the ship's specs made it capable of moving thousands of times faster than any vehicle he'd driven back on his homeworld. And he knew that he was spitting on those numbers anyway. It didn't matter because he couldn't feel it. The artificial gravity kept his feet firmly planted and his sense of balance from being remotely shifted by moving at these offensive speeds. He couldn't even see it. The empty black expanse gave no indication of relative speed. "Captain!" A high voice came in front of him, and below brought him back from his musings. The hostile ship is within scan range again. They're still gaining on us." Multiple voices could be heard murmuring as they heard the navigator speak. "What have we got on it?" "Appearance and frequencies are definitely Vrates, which explains why we can't outpace them, even with whatever black magic the mechanics are doing down there." "Vrates? What the feck are they doing out here in this belt?" There was a silence following him. He didn't expect an answer, though. Another thought quickly formed. "Do we know anything about its defenses?" "Sir?" He felt the eyes turn to face him. He had clearly chosen to fight earlier. Fight was no longer an option. "Did I stutter? What do we know about their defenses?" "Well, they're blocking our scans, but what we have based on our experience is that they primarily use an alloy similar to metal we discovered on Ceres. As for shields, the radiation we're reading shows that they're pretty clearly powered by crystalline fusion." He stood silently for a minute as his mind raced. "Wait, so shouldn't a T-driver round punch right through that?" "Damn right, sir." An excited voice came from a communicator. The display readout showed that it came from one of the ship's gunners. "That's it, sir. The big guns are front-mounted, and I'm pretty sure that these guys are still riding our rear." "Leave that to me, gang. You just have your fingers on the triggers. When you see something to shoot, don't let up until you don't anymore." "Roger that." He could hear a smile on their faces. Tapping a few times on his holo-display, Donato set himself to speak directly to the lead mechanic's communicator. "Magira, can I get you to the bridge quickly?" Within a minute, a short and thin but well-muscled redhead was standing in front of him. She was covered in sweat and scowling hard. "Sir?" "Cut the formalities, Meg. You know I hate it." "Fine, then, Ryan. You asked me to do the impossible earlier. Making the ship go fast is practically offensive. That's not easy. We didn't just step on another pedal. It's an intense 8-body job, and I'm one of the 8. Can you make us stop?" "What?" She never knew how to handle her captain, and she'd grown accustomed to him saying the impossible, like he was ordering a drink. But this still made her recoil slightly. "Stop." "Yeah, full stop." "Why?" Her body shook as she soared. "We are dumping and near all of our fuel to go even this fast. But this still isn't enough. Now you still want us to stop. Why the actual feck would you want that?" "Because it's the last thing they'd expect." He turned away from her instantly and directed himself at the navigation again. "Speaking of, how much time have we got? Be pessimistic." "If we're right about the ship's model, they'll be firing range within a few more minutes at most." "Meg, I want us behind them so Red Jack and the Goon Squad can tear that thing in half. For that to happen, I need just to stop. I know I asked a lot for you to even make this happen. If it's literally impossible, I'll think of something else. But this is what I have right now. Is it possible?" His demeanor managed to calm her down. Feck, she stammered for a few seconds before her eyes lit up. "Yes, actually, we've even kind of got it set up. If we have someone..." She was cut off by Demento, raised a hand to silence her. "Don't tell me, tell the ship." A few taps and swipes on the display, and he was broadcasting to the entire ship. "Attention, I'm going to give comms to lead mechanic Magera. She's got an idea that'll hopefully get us out of this crap. Whatever she says needs to happen as soon as she says it." A few more taps, and Magera felt her communication ping. "She's all yours. Listen up." In that moment, a wave of euphoria hit her. Mechanics love to joke and talk about how they could handle a ship better than any captain. She'd been given the chance to prove it. I need bodies in every section to get the emergency fire triggers. We're going to shut down and starve the entire ship. Ping the bridge when you're in position. On my mark, everyone hit the suppression system. Mechanical. Make sure any fuel gets redirected to the front-facing thrusters and burn it hard. There was a minute of silence as Megara and Ryan stared at the bridge display, waiting to see each section light up. Megara had deafened herself to verbal communication thanks to her mechanical crew screaming every curse they knew. She understood. She'd be doing the same if she was still down there. She knew that they'd get the job done, though. She took a deep breath as the last section lit up in green. Hold on to something, folks. We're going to test the laws of physics with this one. She waited another moment before she counted. 1, 2, 3, hit it! There was a loud squealing as the fire gel instantly expanded throughout the ship, followed by a powerful roar as the front thrusters exploded and burned through several times the amount of fuel that they should ever receive. There was a moment where the gravity generators seemed to be able to handle the strain, but soon they gave out and reset. Everyone not bolted down or wrapped up around something was pitched forward. Then a streak of color raced past, clearly doing its very best to also slow down. Unfortunately for it, that only made it an easier target. After the weapon stopped firing and the groans of his crew subsided, Ryan finally tapped back into his ship-wide communications. I know that sucked, but thank you, all of you. We're still alive because everyone on the ship is a badass. Mechanical, I know I owe every one of you a lot of drinks when we get back home. Get us back to Halcyon and I'll try get you crazy bastards into that bar only officers can go to. And yes, it does exist. End of story. Story number 2. Terran Soil, written by Provisional Rebel. The Federation, and by extension the humans, had won the war. Many planets had changed hands, some systems taken as spoils of war, others being liberated after many long years of occupation. The terms of the treaty were harsh, but why would they be anything else? The Federation were the victors, able to set the terms. Many of the member states made impressive gains, except the humans. Their demands were strange. No one would question their bravery, their courage, and perhaps most of all, their insidious guile. But the demands seemed almost timid. That last quality was, of course, what everyone assumed was at play when they asked for a small land grants on formerly hostile worlds where their troops had taken part in the battles. They wouldn't need to expand energy rebuilding a world's infrastructure and economy when they could just set down a military fortifications and become the de facto occupation without binding legalese. There was some kind of bickering when they also demanded the same allowance on worlds claimed by other federal powers, where their troops had fought, but ultimately it was accepted. After all, having a human fortress on their worlds would only bolster their ability to keep the newly conquered population in line. The only problem was that no fortresses were ever built. Most enemy worlds under human occupation simply avoided the enigmatic overlords and lived as they always had, while the humans labored away on whatever work they had begun. Some resisted the humans, seemingly just out of the need to show resistance because they hadn't given them a reason to. But the humans did not crush them as the other powers would. There were no railgun darts from orbital platforms, no retaliatory strikes. The humans just informed the world that they were not under occupation and that their local government was in control, except for a small piece of land where the humans worked. That was Terran Soil. So life went on. Eventually the humans completed their work and all but a handful of troops departed back to their own systems. Eventually, some locals worked up the courage to try and see what the humans had been building all this time. It was underwhelming. Instead of grand fortress, there was a simple barracks building and a guardhouse at the gate in a fenced-off area that stretched almost the entire region the humans had claimed. There was a pair of soldiers at the gate, but they were not the hulking brutes in powered armor that had fought in the war. They were in dress uniform, standing out in the open, still armed with rifles, of course. But even they were different. They looked ancient, with wooden stocks. Behind them, a road leading into the grounds was lined with poles, each bearing a different and often colorful flag. Beyond that, there were only stones, thousands of simple white stones, each equally spaced, their rows perfectly symmetrical, so that each seemed to simply blend into the next. End of story. I just quickly want to thank the Tier 5 patrons and channel members: Alithia Barkey, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Albarden Guster, Arcadian, Lord Azrakal, and Joachim Backer.